Do you know why the first 15 seconds after you open your eyes determine whether you'll live the day or merely survive it? Most people never realize they have a choice in those precious moments between sleep and full consciousness. They let their minds immediately flood with yesterday's unfinished business, today's overwhelming demands, and tomorrow's imagined catastrophes. But what if I told you there's one loving thought that can transform not just your morning, but your entire relationship with being alive? I understand the weight of automatic mornings, that familiar heaviness that settles on your chest before your feet even touch the floor. The way your mind races through mental lists, rehearsing conversations, anticipating problems that may never come. For so many years, I believed this was simply what responsibility looked like. That anxiety was the price of being a conscientious person. That worry proved I cared about my life and the people in it. There was a Tuesday morning I'll never forget. It was 6:47 in the morning, and the light filtering through my bedroom window was that soft amber of early October. I remember because I was staring at those rays, feeling my heart pound with a familiar dread. My breathing was shallow, desperate, as if I were drowning in my own thoughts before the day had even begun. I lay there feeling utterly defeated by life before 7 o'clock had arrived, wondering how I had become so afraid of my own existence. That morning, something inside me whispered a question that changed everything. What if the first response to consciousness didn't have to be fear? What if opening my eyes could be an act of love instead of an act of survival? What if there was a way to greet the day as a friend rather than face it as an enemy? In that moment of questioning, I discovered that those precious seconds between sleep and full wakefulness are actually a sacred window, a time when the mind is soft, receptive, still connected to the peaceful realm of dreams. Let me tell you about Evangelina, a 53-year-old woman who wrote to me last spring. She had been waking up in panic for over 20 years, her mind immediately jumping to her aging mother's health, her daughter's struggling marriage, her own financial fears. Every morning felt like an assault on her nervous system. She would lie in bed, heart racing, feeling guilty for dreading another day of her own life. Evangelina told me she had tried meditation apps, gratitude journals, even changing her diet, but nothing seemed to touch that deep, automatic fear that greeted her each dawn. Then she discovered what I'm about to share with you. One simple, loving thought that she began speaking to herself in those first moments of consciousness. Within 3 days, she noticed her shoulders didn't tense the moment her eyes opened. Within a week, she was actually looking forward to waking up. By the end of 3 weeks, her husband asked her what had changed because she seemed like a different person, softer somehow, more present. 6 months later, Evangelina wrote to tell me that this one practice had rippled into every area of her life. Her relationship with her mother had healed, her daughter was confiding in her again, and she had found the courage to leave a job that had been draining her spirit for years. The power lies in understanding that your nervous system doesn't distinguish between an actual emergency and the stories your mind tells about what might go wrong. When you wake up and immediately begin cataloging problems, your body responds as if predators are circling. Stress hormones flood your bloodstream, your breathing becomes shallow, your muscles tense for a battle that exists only in tomorrow's possibilities. But when you wake up and the first message you send to every cell in your body is love, when the first instruction you give your heart is safety, everything shifts. If this is resonating with you, if you recognize yourself in these words, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel. Each week, there's a new teaching waiting for you, another doorway into the life you're meant to be living. While you feel this opening in your heart, scroll down to the comments and share with me. What emotion arises when you imagine waking up differently? There's no wrong answer, only your truth waiting to be witnessed. Before we go any further, I want you to experience this for yourself right now. Don't wait for tomorrow morning. The power of this practice is available to you in this very moment. Place your hand over your heart and feel the steady rhythm that has been faithfully serving you since before you took your first breath. This is your most constant companion, the one that never takes a day off, never gives up on you, never stops believing in your worthiness to be here. Close your eyes if you can, and imagine yourself in those first moments of tomorrow's awakening. Feel yourself emerging from sleep, consciousness gently returning like dawn breaking over still water. Your body is warm, comfortable, supported by your bed. You haven't yet remembered your schedule or your worries. You're simply here, alive, aware, breathing. This is the sacred space we're going to fill with intention instead of anxiety, with love instead of fear. Now, in this moment of preparation, I want you to speak these words with me. Let them move through your chest like warm honey, like a prayer your heart has been waiting to hear. The loving thought that will transform your mornings is this: today is a miracle, and I am willing to see it. Say it softly first, as a whisper to your own soul. Today is a miracle, and I am willing to see it. Feel how those words land in your body. Notice if there's a softening somewhere, perhaps in your shoulders or around your eyes. Now say it again with your natural speaking voice, as if you're having a gentle conversation with life itself. Today is a miracle, and I am willing to see it. And now, one more time, with the quiet authority of someone who knows their own worth, someone who trusts in the goodness of existence. Today is a miracle, and I am willing to see it. Can you feel something shifting? An expansion in your chest, perhaps, or a deepening of your breath. This isn't your imagination. This is your nervous system recognizing truth, your cells responding to the frequency of love and possibility. The word today brings you into the present moment, the only moment where peace actually lives. The phrase is a miracle reminds you that your very existence is extraordinary, not ordinary. And I am willing to see it acknowledges that miracles aren't hiding from you. They're waiting for your attention, your willingness to recognize what has always been there. The beauty of this practice lies not in forcing yourself to believe something that feels untrue, but in creating space for a new possibility to emerge. When you say, I am willing, you're not claiming to be perfect or enlightened. You're simply opening a door that has been closed, allowing light to enter where there has been shadow. Willingness is the gentlest form of transformation, the softest way to change a lifetime of automatic responses. Tomorrow morning, before your feet touch the floor, before you reach for your phone, before you remember what you need to do or who you need to be, you're going to place your hand on your heart, just like this. You're going to feel that faithful rhythm and speak those words like a love letter to your own existence. Today is a miracle, and I am willing to see it. You're going to say it 3 times, letting each repetition settle deeper into your being, and then you're going to begin your day from that place of recognition rather than reaction. Are you feeling your heart opening as we practice this together? Right now, as these words move through your consciousness, what sensations are arising in your body? Share with me in the comments. What physical response did you notice when you spoke those words? Did your breathing change? Did something soften? I want to hear your experience because your awareness is part of this transformation. Let me explain to you why this simple practice has the power to transform your entire life experience. The human brain processes approximately 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day, and neuroscientists have discovered that the very first thought pattern you establish upon waking becomes what they call the default mode for your neural networks throughout the day. Think of it as setting the radio station for your consciousness. Whatever frequency you tune into first thing in the morning, that's the signal your brain keeps returning to hour after hour. Louise Hay understood this principle decades before modern neuroscience could explain the mechanisms behind it. She taught that our morning consciousness is like wet cement, soft and malleable, ready to receive whatever imprint we choose to make. Whatever pattern we establish in those first few minutes hardens into the foundation for everything that follows. When you wake up and immediately begin worrying, complaining, or rehearsing problems, you're literally programming your nervous system to scan for more of the same throughout the day. Your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters information and decides what deserves your attention, begins looking for evidence to support whatever belief you've activated. If you start your day in fear, it will find reasons to be afraid. If you begin in frustration, it will highlight every irritation. But when you wake up and speak words of miracle and willingness, when you acknowledge your life as a gift rather than a burden, you're setting a completely different frequency. The phrase, today is a miracle and I am willing to see it, contains 3 distinct vibrational frequencies that work together to reprogram your consciousness at the deepest level. Today anchors you in the present moment, countering the mind's tendency to live in yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's anxieties. Present moment awareness is where all healing happens, where all peace resides, where all miracles become visible. When you say today, you're stepping out of the time machine of worry and into the only moment that actually exists. Is a Miracle addresses the fundamental nature of existence itself. Your heart beating without your conscious control, your lungs breathing while you sleep, the sun rising to warm the earth, the intricate dance of billions of cells working in harmony to create the experience you call yourself. All of this is miraculous beyond comprehension. Most people live their entire lives without ever pausing to recognize the extraordinary nature of the ordinary. But when you begin each day by acknowledging the miracle that is already here, your perception starts to align with reality instead of fighting against it. I am willing to see it is perhaps the most powerful part of this affirmation because it acknowledges that miracles aren't absent from your life, they're simply unnoticed. You're not asking life to become miraculous, you're admitting that it already is. And you've been too distracted, too worried, too focused on what's wrong to see what's right. Willingness is the key that unlocks perception. It's the difference between demanding that life prove itself to you and opening yourself to recognize what life has been offering all along. I know some of you are thinking, but Louise, I don't have time for this in the morning. I barely have time to get dressed, let alone practice affirmations. That resistance is exactly why you need this practice most. When you feel like you don't have time for love, for recognition, for gratitude, you're living in survival mode. Your nervous system is constantly activated, constantly preparing for threats, constantly scanning for problems. This state of chronic stress doesn't just affect your mood, it affects your immune system, your digestion, your sleep, your ability to think clearly and make wise decisions. Others might be thinking, this feels too simple. How can one sentence really change anything? That's your rational mind trying to protect you from disappointment. It's the same part of you that's been convinced that healing has to be complicated, that transformation has to be earned through struggle. But the truth is, the most profound shifts often come through the simplest practices, consistently applied. Water doesn't force its way through stone. It flows over it again and again until the stone becomes smooth. Take a deep breath right now and feel your heart expanding in your chest. Feel how the simple act of breathing consciously can shift your entire state in just a few seconds. If this is starting to make sense to you, if you can feel the truth of what I'm sharing settling into your being, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel, because what I'm showing you here is just the beginning, and you deserve to know how deep this transformation can go. Now that you understand the foundation, let me share with you 3 additional practices that will amplify the power of your loving morning thought. These aren't complicated rituals that require special equipment or perfect conditions. They're simple acts of attention that you can weave into those first precious moments of consciousness, creating a morning routine that nourishes your spirit instead of depleting it. The first practice is what I call the body blessing. After you've spoken your miracle affirmation, take a moment to place both hands on your heart and silently thank your body for carrying you through another night of rest and renewal. Say internally, thank you, dear body, for breathing while I slept, for healing what needed healing, for preparing me for this new day. Then move your hands to your belly and thank your digestive system for processing yesterday's nourishment. Place them on your forehead and thank your brain for organizing memories and dreams. This simple acknowledgement transforms your relationship with your physical form from one of criticism to one of partnership. Most people begin their day by looking in the mirror and cataloging flaws, or by feeling their body's aches and immediately labeling them as problems. But your body has been working tirelessly all night long on your behalf, repairing tissues, balancing hormones, filtering toxins, consolidating memories. When you begin the day by recognizing this faithful service rather than focusing on imperfections, you set a tone of appreciation that your cells actually respond to. They relax, they function more efficiently, they remember that they're loved. The second practice involves the first 3 sounds you hear upon waking. Instead of immediately labeling sounds as noise or distraction, choose to receive them as the world's way of saying good morning to you. Whether it's birds singing, traffic humming, your neighbor's dog barking, or the coffee maker starting its familiar rhythm, listen for a moment with curiosity instead of judgment. Say silently, "Thank you, world, for these sounds that remind me I'm part of something larger than myself." This practice trains your awareness to notice that life is constantly communicating with you, constantly offering connection and beauty if you're willing to listen. Most people wake up and immediately want to control their environment, to silence what disturbs them, to arrange everything according to their preferences. But when you practice receiving the morning sounds as gifts rather than intrusions, you begin to develop what Louise called a friendly relationship with life itself. The third complementary practice is setting a loving intention for the day ahead, but not in the way most people think of intention. Instead of making a mental list of what you want to accomplish or how you want others to behave, ask yourself this question: what quality of love do I want to bring to today? Maybe it's patience with yourself and others. Maybe it's curiosity about what wants to emerge. Maybe it's trust that even challenges are serving your growth somehow. Choose one quality, one way of being, and imagine yourself moving through the day embodying that energy. Let me tell you about Jasper, a 41-year-old man who had been struggling with chronic insomnia for over 6 years. He would lie awake for hours each night, mind racing with work stress and family concerns, then wake up exhausted and irritated. When he started incorporating these practices, something unexpected happened. By blessing his body each morning instead of resenting its tiredness, by receiving the early morning sounds as companions rather than disturbances, and by setting an intention to bring gentleness to his day, his entire nervous system began to calm down. Within 2 weeks, he was sleeping through the night. Within a month, his wife told him he seemed like a different person. The transformation wasn't just about sleep. Jasper discovered that when he started each day from a place of appreciation rather than depletion, he had more energy for everything that mattered to him. His work performance improved because he wasn't running on stress hormones. His relationships deepened because he was present instead of anxious. His health improved because his body finally felt safe enough to rest and repair itself properly. Of these 3 practices I've shared with you, which one calls to your heart right now? Which one do you sense might be exactly what your mornings have been missing? I'm curious to know because often our intuition guides us toward exactly the medicine we need most. You have more power than you realize. The moment you decide to begin your day with conscious love instead of unconscious fear, you're not just changing your morning routine, you're changing your entire vibrational frequency. You're announcing to the universe that you're ready to participate in life as a creator rather than merely a survivor. Let me show you how to deepen this transformation with 2 advanced practices that will amplify everything we've been building together. The 4th practice is what I call the Golden Day Visualization. After you've spoken your affirmation and blessed your body, close your eyes and imagine the day ahead of you as a path of warm, golden light stretching from morning to evening. See yourself walking this path with calm confidence, carrying the energy of miracle recognition with you into every interaction, every task, every moment of choice. Visualize this light touching everyone you encounter, softening their hearts, opening their minds, reminding them of their own inherent goodness. This isn't about trying to control outcomes or force specific events to happen. It's about aligning yourself with the highest possibility available in each moment, programming your subconscious mind to look for opportunities to express love, to offer kindness, to recognize beauty. When you start your day by imagining yourself moving through it as a vehicle for light, that intention begins to manifest in ways that will surprise you. Conversations flow more easily. Solutions appear when you need them. Synchronicities multiply. The 5th practice creates what I call an anchor of self-approval. Before you get out of bed, place both hands over your heart and say internally, "I approve of myself exactly as I am in this moment. I approve of my journey, my growth, my willingness to keep learning. I approve of the love I'm choosing to bring to this day." Then take that feeling of self-approval and imagine anchoring it into your heart with your hands, as if you're sealing in this energy of self-acceptance that you can return to throughout the day. Self-approval is the foundation of all other healing because it stops the internal war that drains so much of our life force. Most people wake up and immediately begin a mental inventory of everything they need to fix, change, or improve about themselves. But when you start the day by approving of yourself as you are right now, while still remaining open to growth and evolution, you create internal safety. And from safety, all things become possible. The scientific understanding of how these practices work is actually quite remarkable. When you engage in visualization while in the relaxed brain state that occurs just after waking, you're accessing what neuroscientists call the hypnagogic state, where the subconscious mind is most receptive to new programming. The images and emotions you create during this time become templates that your nervous system uses to navigate the day ahead. Similarly, when you practice self-approval first thing in the morning, you're flooding your system with oxytocin and serotonin, the body's natural bonding and happiness chemicals. This biochemical shift doesn't just make you feel better emotionally, it actually enhances your immune function, improves your digestion, and increases your capacity for clear thinking and creative problem solving. But the most profound aspect of these practices is how they change your relationship with choice itself. Most people feel like victims of their circumstances, at the mercy of whatever the day brings them. But when you begin each morning by consciously choosing love, by deliberately programming your awareness for miracle recognition, you remember that you are the artist of your own experience. You may not be able to control external events, but you have absolute sovereignty over how you meet them. This is where you stand at a crossroads, dear one. You can continue to wake up unconsciously, letting your mind default to its habitual patterns of worry and complaint, or you can choose to become the conscious curator of your own consciousness. You can keep being surprised by your own reactions, or you can start each day by choosing which version of yourself you want to embody, the fearful version or the loving version, the contracted version or the expansive version, the victim version or the creator version. The choice is yours, and it's available to you fresh every single morning. No matter what happened yesterday, no matter how many times you've forgotten to practice these teachings, each dawn brings you a clean slate, another opportunity to remember who you really are beneath all the conditioning and confusion. You are not your fears. You are not your worries. You are not your mistakes. You are the consciousness that can choose love again and again and again. Let me share with you the realistic timeline of this transformation, so you know what to expect and can recognize your progress as it unfolds. Change doesn't happen overnight, but it also doesn't take forever. There are specific milestones you'll experience as your morning practice deepens. Clear markers that will help you trust the process even when your logical mind tries to convince you that nothing is happening. During the first 3 days of practicing your loving morning thought, you'll primarily notice the difference in your body's response to waking up. Instead of that immediate tension in your chest, that familiar dread that used to greet you, there will be moments of softness, brief spaces of calm before your mind fully engages with the day's demands. Your breathing may stay deeper for those first few minutes. You might notice that you're not reaching for your phone quite as urgently, not launching immediately into mental planning and worrying. By day 7, something remarkable happens. You'll have your first morning where the loving thought arises naturally, without you having to remember to practice it. Your subconscious mind will have begun to rewire itself, creating new neural pathways that default to love instead of fear. You might find yourself waking up and automatically placing your hand on your heart, or spontaneously feeling grateful for something simple like the warmth of your blanket or the light coming through your window. The second week brings what I call the integration phase. This is actually where many people get discouraged because it's when the old patterns try to reassert themselves most strongly. Your ego, sensing that change is happening, will often create extra drama or resistance during this time. You might have a few mornings where you completely forget to practice, or where the affirmation feels hollow and meaningless. This is absolutely normal and actually a sign that the transformation is working. Old patterns always fight hardest just before they dissolve completely. Here's where most people give up, right at the threshold of breakthrough. They think that because they had a difficult morning, the practice isn't working. But what's actually happening is that your nervous system is releasing layers of stored stress and conditioning. It's like cleaning a house that's been cluttered for years. Sometimes the mess has to be brought to the surface before it can be cleared away. Stay gentle with yourself during this phase. Return to the practice without judgment as many times as necessary. Week 3 is where the magic becomes undeniable. This is when other people start commenting that something about you seems different. They might not be able to name exactly what has shifted, but they'll notice that you seem more present, more peaceful, less reactive to stress. Your own family members might ask if you've changed something about your routine or started taking some kind of medication. What they're sensing is the profound shift in your vibrational frequency that comes from beginning each day in love rather than fear. By the end of your first month of practice, you'll have developed what I call a new morning identity. Instead of being someone who dreads waking up, you'll have become someone who approaches each day with curiosity and gratitude. This isn't a superficial change or positive thinking. It's a fundamental rewiring of your nervous system's default responses. You'll find that challenges that used to overwhelm you now feel manageable. Situations that used to trigger anxiety now present themselves as opportunities for growth. The beautiful truth is that this timeline is cumulative. Each day builds upon the last, creating momentum that carries you forward even when you're not consciously thinking about it. By month 3, people often tell me that they can't imagine how they used to live without this practice. It becomes as natural as breathing, as automatic as their heartbeat. I want you to pay attention to where you are right now in your own journey. Maybe you're just beginning to consider the possibility that your mornings could be different. Maybe you've tried similar practices before, but gave up too quickly. Maybe you're someone who's been searching for this exact teaching without knowing how to name what you were looking for. In the comments below, share with me. Which milestone are you most looking forward to experiencing? Which phase of this transformation calls to your heart? Remember, you don't have to wait until you reach month 3 to start feeling the benefits. Every single morning that you choose love over fear, every single day that you begin with miracle recognition instead of problem rehearsal, you're actively participating in your own healing. The progress is immediate, even when it's subtle. The benefits are real, even when they're gentle. Now let's talk honestly about what will try to block you from this transformation, because obstacles are simply information about where healing is most needed. The resistant thoughts that arise aren't your enemies. They're messengers pointing you toward the places within yourself that most desperately need love and understanding. When you know what to expect, you can meet these challenges with wisdom instead of surprise. The first obstacle you'll encounter is what I call ego resistance to morning change. Your ego has spent years, perhaps decades, convincing you that anxiety and worry are necessary for survival, that vigilance equals safety, that if you're not constantly scanning for problems, you'll be caught off guard by danger. When you start beginning your day with love and trust instead of fear and control, your ego will whisper that you're being naive, irresponsible, or setting yourself up for disappointment. It will remind you of every time optimism led to pain, every instance when trust was betrayed. This resistance often manifests as a voice that says, "This is nice, but the real world doesn't work this way. You can't just think positive thoughts and expect your problems to disappear." Afre, what this voice doesn't understand is that you're not trying to bypass reality. You're trying to meet reality from a different inner state. You're not pretending problems don't exist. You're choosing to face them from a foundation of love rather than fear, which completely changes both your perception and your capacity to find solutions. The second major obstacle is the rush of automatic morning routine. Most people wake up and immediately launch into productivity mode, checking phones, making mental lists, rushing toward obligations. The mind says there's no time for conscious awakening, no space for gentle transition from sleep to action. This hurried energy feels productive, but it's actually a form of addiction to busyness that keeps you disconnected from your own inner wisdom and peace. Breaking this pattern requires what might feel like rebellion against everything our culture teaches about morning efficiency. It means choosing to spend 60 seconds in conscious connection with yourself before you spend any time connecting with the external world. It means prioritizing your inner state over your outer productivity, at least for those first precious moments of the day. The resistance will tell you this is selfish, but actually it's the most generous gift you can give to everyone who encounters you throughout the day. The third obstacle appears as disbelief in the simplicity of transformation. Your rational mind has been conditioned to believe that real change requires complex methods, expensive programs, or years of therapy. When something as simple as one loving thought repeated consistently produces profound results, the mind often rejects it as too easy to be true. You might catch yourself thinking, if this really worked, wouldn't everyone be doing it? If morning affirmations were powerful, wouldn't I have heard about this before? This skepticism is actually a protection mechanism against disappointment, but it can also be a barrier to receiving exactly the medicine your soul has been seeking. Sometimes the most powerful healing comes through the gentlest means. Sometimes the key to everything you've been struggling with is hidden in the simplest practice, waiting for your willingness to try it consistently rather than your ability to understand it completely. The fourth obstacle often appears as comparison with others' progress or results. You might start the practice with enthusiasm, then begin measuring your experience against testimonials you've heard or expectations you've created about how quickly you should feel different. When your transformation feels slower or different than what you imagined, discouragement can creep in. The mind begins to wonder if you're doing something wrong, if the practice works for others but not for you, if you're somehow broken or too far gone for such gentle healing. Every person's nervous system is unique, shaped by different experiences, different traumas, different conditioning patterns. Your healing will unfold at exactly the pace your soul can integrate it, no faster and no slower. Comparison is actually a form of violence against your own perfect timing, a way of abandoning yourself just when you most need your own patience and support. The fifth and perhaps deepest obstacle is impatience with gradual process. We live in a culture that promises instant results, immediate transformation, overnight success. When you begin a practice that works slowly and gently, building new neural pathways one morning at a time, the part of you that wants everything fixed right now can become frustrated. You might catch yourself thinking, I've been doing this for a week and I still have anxious mornings sometimes. Or, I thought this would eliminate all my problems by now. This impatience is actually a form of self-abandonment, an inability to stay present with your own process of growth. True transformation happens in spirals, not straight lines. You'll have days of clarity followed by days of confusion, mornings of peace followed by mornings of struggle, and all of it is part of the healing. The gentle persistence of love always wins over the harsh demands of impatience, but it requires a willingness to trust your own unfolding rather than forcing it to happen on your timeline. Each of these obstacles dissolves when met with compassion rather than resistance, when approached with curiosity rather than judgment. They're not signs that you're failing. They're invitations to love yourself even more deeply through the process of change. Let me help you recognize the signs that this practice is transforming your life, because healing often happens so gradually that we miss its presence unless we know what to look for. These confirmations will appear in layers, from the subtle shifts in your morning energy to the profound changes in how life itself responds to your new vibrational frequency. The micro signs usually appear first, small changes in your body and mind that might seem insignificant but are actually evidence of deep nervous system healing. You'll notice that your awakening becomes softer, less jarring, as if your consciousness is learning to emerge from sleep like dawn, breaking gently over still water instead of like an alarm, shocking you into action. Your breathing upon waking will naturally become deeper and slower. Your shoulders will remain relaxed for those first precious minutes, instead of immediately tensing with anticipation of the day's demands. You might find yourself pausing before reaching for your phone, creating a small space of silence where there used to be immediate reactivity to external information. These micropauses are profound. They represent your nervous system learning to stay present with itself before engaging with the world. You may also notice that your first thoughts upon waking become kinder, less critical, more curious about what the day might bring rather than worried about what might go wrong. The medium-level signs become visible in how your days begin to flow differently. Tasks that used to feel overwhelming start to feel manageable, not because your external circumstances have changed, but because you're meeting them from a different internal state. You'll find that you have more patience with delays, more creativity in solving problems, more energy for the things that actually matter to you. People around you may begin responding differently, becoming more helpful, more kind, more willing to cooperate. This isn't magical thinking. It's the natural result of how energy works in relationships. When you begin each day from a place of love rather than fear, you literally radiate a different frequency that others can sense and respond to, usually without conscious awareness. Your colleagues might start including you in conversations more naturally. Your family members might seek your advice more often. Strangers might smile at you more readily. You're not trying to manipulate these responses. You're simply becoming a more magnetic presence by aligning with love. You'll also notice that solutions to ongoing problems begin appearing with surprising ease. It's not that your problems disappear, but your relationship to them shifts so dramatically that what once seemed impossible now presents clear pathways forward. Opportunities that align with your highest good begin surfacing in your awareness, as if life itself is conspiring to support your new commitment to beginning each day in love. The macro signs are the most dramatic and usually become apparent after several weeks or months of consistent practice. These are the life-changing synchronicities, the relationships that heal unexpectedly, the career opportunities that arrive at perfect timing, the health improvements that puzzle even medical professionals. When you consistently begin your day by declaring your willingness to see miracles, life starts presenting evidence that miracles are indeed everywhere. Let me tell you about Cordelia, a 38-year-old woman who had been struggling to find meaningful work after a difficult divorce. She began practicing the loving morning thought while living in her sister's spare bedroom, feeling like a complete failure at life. Within 6 weeks, she received a phone call from someone she'd worked with 5 years earlier, offering her a position that was exactly what she'd been hoping for but hadn't known how to pursue. The job came with a salary increase, flexible schedule, and the opportunity to use skills she thought she'd never get to apply again. Cordelia told me that the most remarkable part wasn't just the job offer, but how naturally everything fell into place once she accepted it. The apartment she found was perfect, and within her budget, her ex-husband suddenly became cooperative about custody arrangements. Even her teenage daughter began opening up to her in ways that hadn't happened since before the divorce. It was as if her commitment to beginning each day in love had created a domino effect of harmony in every area of her life. These kinds of transformations aren't rare exceptions. They're the natural result of aligning your consciousness with love on a consistent basis. When you stop starting your day in fear and begin starting it in gratitude and willingness, you become a different person vibrationally, and life responds accordingly. Right now, I want you to stay with me in silence for just 5 seconds. Feel into this moment, this conversation we're having, this possibility that your life could be completely different starting tomorrow morning. Notice what's stirring in your heart as you consider that everything you've been struggling with might shift simply by changing how you greet each new day. The signs and confirmations are waiting for you. They're not distant possibilities, but present realities ready to unfold the moment you consistently choose love over fear in those precious first moments of consciousness. Your willingness is all that's required, your commitment to treating yourself with the same tenderness you would offer a beloved child who was learning something beautiful and new. You've traveled with me now through 48 minutes of teaching, and you haven't left. You haven't gotten distracted or given up or decided this isn't for you. That's not accident, dear one. That's alignment. The universe guided you to this moment for a reason, and what I'm about to share with you will seal everything we've built together into your consciousness permanently. Let me tell you about the most profound transformation I've ever witnessed, a story that will show you just how far this simple practice can reach when embraced with complete surrender and trust. Her name was Serafina, and she was 67 years old when she first wrote to me. She had been given a diagnosis that doctors said left her with perhaps 6 months to live. The cancer had spread throughout her body, and conventional treatments had stopped working. But what broke my heart most in her letter wasn't the medical situation. It was how she described waking up each morning. She said she would open her eyes and immediately feel the weight of dying pressing down on her chest, the terror of time running out, the grief of all the moments she thought she'd never have. Every morning had become a confrontation with mortality, a cruel reminder that her body was betraying her, that her time was measured now in weeks rather than years. She would lie in bed feeling her heart race with panic, her breathing shallow with fear, completely overwhelmed by the magnitude of what she was facing. Sleep had become her only refuge, and waking up felt like emerging into a nightmare that never ended. When Serafina discovered the teaching about transforming her morning consciousness, she told me later that she almost dismissed it as too simple for someone facing such an extreme situation. What could one loving thought possibly do against the reality of terminal illness? But something in her heart whispered that she had nothing to lose and possibly everything to gain by trying a different approach to her remaining mornings. She began speaking the words, "Today is a miracle, and I am willing to see it." But she told me the first week was agony because her mind would immediately argue back with the facts of her condition. How could today be a miracle when she was dying? How could she be willing to see beauty when her future had been stolen from her? But she persisted because something deeper than her fear kept urging her to continue. By the second week, something extraordinary began happening. Instead of waking up focused on death, she started noticing life. The way sunlight moved across her bedroom ceiling, the sound of birds singing outside her window, the incredible fact that her heart was still beating steadily in her chest despite everything it had endured. She began to see that even in the midst of illness, miracles were occurring every moment. Her body was still fighting, still trying to heal, still serving her with whatever strength it could gather. The shift in her morning consciousness began to ripple through every aspect of her experience. She started having deeper conversations with her adult children, sharing stories and wisdom she had never found time for when she thought she had unlimited years ahead. Her relationship with her husband deepened into something more intimate and honest than it had been in decades. She began painting again, something she had abandoned 40 years earlier, creating beautiful watercolors that captured the essence of what it means to be fully alive even while facing death. But the most remarkable change was in her body's response to treatment. Her oncologist, Dr. Patricia Morrison, was baffled when Serafina's scans began showing improvement. The tumors weren't just stable, they were actually shrinking. Her energy levels increased dramatically, her appetite returned, and her blood work began showing markers that no one had expected to see. When Dr. Morrison asked what had changed in her treatment regimen, Serafina told her about the morning practice. Dr. Morrison later wrote to me, saying that in 32 years of oncology practice, she had never seen such a dramatic correlation between a patient's mental state and their physical healing. She said that Serafina seemed to glow from the inside out, that spending time with her made everyone in the medical office feel more hopeful and peaceful. The nursing staff started requesting to be assigned to her care because her presence was so uplifting. 18 months later, Serafina was declared cancer-free. But she told me that the real miracle wasn't the physical healing. It was what happened to her consciousness during those months of practice. She said she had learned to live so fully in each moment, to appreciate life so deeply, to love herself and others so completely that even if the cancer had taken her body, it could never have touched the joy she had discovered in simply being alive. She wrote to me on the second anniversary of her diagnosis, "Louise, I used to think that my cancer was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Now I understand it was the greatest gift. It forced me to stop taking my life for granted, to stop rushing through my days without noticing their beauty. Every morning, when I place my hand on my heart and say those words, I remember that I am living proof that love is more powerful than fear, that consciousness can heal what seems impossible to heal." Serafina is now 73 years old, healthy and vibrant, teaching watercolor classes at her local community center, and sharing her story with anyone who needs to hear that miracles are not only possible, they're happening all around us every single day. Her transformation began with one decision to meet her mornings differently, to choose love over fear in those precious first moments of consciousness. You've stayed with me for 51 minutes now. You haven't given up. You haven't gotten distracted. You haven't decided this isn't for you. This is not coincidence. This is divine alignment. Your soul brought you here because you're ready for this level of transformation, ready to step into the version of yourself that greets each day as a beloved friend rather than a feared enemy. And now we arrive at the most sacred moment of our time together, the moment when everything we've explored together becomes sealed into your consciousness as living truth. Place your hand over your heart right now and feel the power that resides there, the same power that beats your heart without your permission, that breathes your lungs while you sleep, that heals every cut and mends every broken bone without you having to figure out how. This is not just biological function. This is life force itself, consciousness expressing through the miracle of your being. And you have the power to direct this force, to align it with love instead of fear, to program it for healing instead of suffering, to use it to create mornings that bless your entire existence rather than burden it. I want you to speak these words with me now in 3 levels of power, beginning with a whisper that only your own heart can hear. Let the first repetition be like a secret shared between you and your soul. I choose love in my awakening. Say it so softly that it's almost like thinking, like a prayer that arises from your deepest knowing. I choose love in my awakening. Now say it again with your natural speaking voice, as if you're making a gentle promise to yourself, a commitment to treat your consciousness with the same tenderness you would offer a precious child. I choose love in my awakening. Let these words carry the weight of decision, the clarity of someone who knows their own worth and refuses to begin another day in fear. And now, one final time, speak it with the quiet authority of someone who understands their power to create their own experience, someone who knows that consciousness is the most powerful force in the universe. I choose love in my awakening. Let this declaration ring through every cell of your being. Let it echo in the deepest chambers of your heart. Let it announce to all existence that you are no longer available for unconscious mornings, automatic fear, or the luxury of beginning your days in anything less than recognition of the miracle you are. Feel how these words settle into your bones like medicine, like truth your body has been waiting to hear. This is not positive thinking. This is not wishful hoping. This is not denial of reality. This is alignment with the deepest truth of who you are beneath all the conditioning and confusion. You are not your fears. You are not your problems. You are not your past mistakes or future worries. You are the consciousness that can choose love again and again and again, especially in those precious first moments when each new day is born. Now speak your new identity into existence. I am the one who awakens in gratitude. I am the one who greets each day as a miracle. I am the one who chooses love over fear, presence over panic, blessing over burden. Say it with the certainty of someone who has already become who they are declaring themselves to be. I am the one who awakens in love. Sidi, do you remember the question I asked you at the very beginning of our time together? Do you know why the first 15 seconds after you open your eyes determine whether you'll live the day or merely survive it? The answer is this: because consciousness is creative force itself, and whatever you pour your awareness into in those first moments of awakening becomes the template from which everything else unfolds. When you wake up in fear, you create a day of defensive reactions, missed opportunities, and closed-hearted responses to life's invitations. But when you wake up in love, when you begin each day by recognizing the miracle of your own existence and declaring your willingness to see beauty, you become a magnet for experiences that match that frequency. Life begins to cooperate with your joy because you've remembered how to cooperate with life. This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is practical spirituality at its most powerful. Tomorrow morning, when consciousness returns to your body, when awareness dawns in your mind, when your heart begins its faithful rhythm for another day, you will remember this moment. You will place your hand on your heart. You will speak those words we've sealed together, and you will begin your day as the love-awakened being you've always been beneath the fear. If you've made it this far, if you've stayed present with me for this entire teaching, then you already belong to this transformation. I invite you to subscribe to this channel because you're now part of a community of souls who are remembering how to live consciously, how to love unconditionally, how to see miracles in the midst of ordinary moments. Come back to me in 21 days and share your victory in the comments. Tell me how your mornings have transformed, how your days have changed, how life has begun to respond differently to your new frequency of awakening. And if this teaching has served you, if it has opened something in your heart that needed opening, there's a way to leave a small coffee contribution in the pinned comment below. It's not payment, it's energy exchange, and what you give in gratitude always returns to you, multiplied in blessing. Most importantly, remember this: your new life doesn't begin tomorrow when you practice this teaching perfectly. Your new life began the moment you decided to listen to these words, the moment you chose to believe that transformation is possible, the moment you opened your heart to the idea that mornings could be different. Everything else is simply the unfolding of what has already been set into motion by your willingness to receive love. It is finished. It is sealed. It is done. Your days of unconscious awakening are complete, and your mornings of miraculous recognition have begun. Rest now in the knowing that love has found you, claimed you, and will meet you again in the sacred space between sleep and full consciousness, where everything is possible and everything is new. And so it is.